Welcome in to Greenville Grit, Greenville residents in touch on 103.7 WTIB. This is the local show that keeps you connected and in touch with the issues that affect what's happening in your community. Greenville Grit is sponsored by Ribeyes, Kid Construction, and Greenville Toyota. Now, here are your hosts for Greenville Grit, Terry Williams and Michael Overton.
Welcome to the Greenville Grit. I am Michael Overton along with my co-host Terry Williams and Dennis Mitchell. Guys, thank you for being here today. We're going to have a good show and talk about a few things. Terry, you still got a little problem with your voice?
Still got a little bit of voice problem, but
we're just cracking it before we started. You sound like Jeanette Cox, and if anybody's listening to the show remembers her, she was the meanest, toughest realtor that ever came through Greenville.
That's right.
About 3'5" tall, and was tougher than any man I've ever seen.
She was petite, and I'm not petite.
But you got the voice. You got the voice. Dennis, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
All right, we're going to talk about a few things, but as always, we've got to thank the sponsors. So we got to thank Greenville Toyota if you're looking for a new Toyota or Scion vehicle, or a new used car. Call Craig Ghost and the Greenville Toyota team at 321-3000 or on the web at greenvilletoyota.com, or just visit them in person across from Fresh Market in Greenville. The Overton Group, real estate professionals serving all of Eastern North Carolina in commercial sales and leasing, property management, business brokerage, and residential brokerage. You can visit us on the web at overtongroup.net. We have to thank KCG, BuildGreen.com,
Our green builder.
Well, that came out rough, Terry.
Sorry.
Green builder, Terry.
Thank you, Dennis. I need all the help I can get today.
The Green Builder, KCG, BuildGreen.com. Bill Kidd is a good buddy of mine. Kidd Construction Group is the name of his company. If you're looking for renovation or new construction, he's going to be, I don't know if he's going to have anything in the Parade of Homes this year or not, because I think he's already sold what he was going to have, but he does a beautiful job.
Right.
And lastly, Ribeyes Steakhouse. We got to thank Joey Wood and the Ribeyes team. If you're looking for a good steak, a good baked potato, pork chop chicken,
Salad bar.
or even salad bar, visit them on Arlington Boulevard at the corner of Fire Tower in Arlington. Really, I guess technically Fire Tower Boulevard, or Fire Tower Road, excuse me. And then you've got one in Williamston also. So thank you again to our sponsors. Make sure, though, on Ribeyes, you mentioned Greenville Grit. You get a surprise. It changes.
I think it's a dessert right now.
I think it might still be a dessert.
Yeah.
Yep. So it'll change up soon.
Okay.
We're going to take a quick two-minute commercial break. We'll come back, and we'll get into this that's going on in the city right now. All right, we're back on the Greenville Grit again. We're still cracking on Terry's voice, but she's going to do what she can to get through this show without hacking us too far off the table. But let's talk about it, Dennis. You've kind of done a good job of keeping up with what's going on in the city. So let's talk. Well, I guess new parking deck. That's some exciting news.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it's one of the other things that we pushed when I was on the city council. I mean, Max Joyner, I got to really give him the credit. He was like, it's time for this. The city had been saving money for years, using it. Max said, no, we need to go ahead and get this parking deck done. I think it's a huge boom for the city. The mayor called me like 15 minutes till the soft opening. It's like, yeah, I'm about to get down there. Come ride in the car with me. So I went down there and we drove the little first car up. Got the scenic view of Greenville from the parking deck.
It is. Top of the parking deck.
It is. I took my wife there one day, but they had like the top boarded off. But I went through it anyway, and got the nighttime view of Greenville. I think it's amazing. I think it's going to be a big boom for our center city.
Well, I tell you what, we might have that parking deck, but I went to park, and I didn't go into the parking deck last night, but I went to park for a meeting I had downtown about 4 in the afternoon. And I had to drive the block, 2 blocks, 2 times around just to find a parking place with the parking deck.
Oh yeah, I mean it's I mean, future vision would tell them to go ahead and start planning for the next.
They need to plan for the
exactly.
next.
Well, there's still some work that needs to be done. Is the clock installed yet?
The clock is not installed yet. They're still doing work on the plaza around it. So that's what they're really waiting for. The huge groundbreaking is when they do the nice plaza around it. The clock. I think it's some minor work needs to take place inside, probably with some lighting and stuff like that. But again, I went there at nighttime. It's lit up great.
Right.
I think it's like 26 cameras in the parking deck.
24, 26.
Yeah, somewhere around there. So I think it's going to be amazing. Just need to make sure we keep up with the maintenance.
And I believe they've done long-term leases. Well, I say long-term leases, but monthly leases on quite a few parking places in there too.
Yeah, I think 2 floors are going to be for lease long-term. And 2 floors are, I think, hourly, 2-hour parking.
Well, that's going to show you right there, obviously, the need, because I've heard that they've done a good job of leasing them up. I don't know if they're completely leased out or not. But, we got the Boundary that's going to be opening this August. That is the Jim Ward Tom Taft project.
Right.
And I believe they're getting close or somewhere up around 80% leased out on the residential. But there's one of the challenges there that I I don't think, and I don't know the numbers, I'd ask Thomas Taft this, but I don't believe they have enough parking places for every single resident to have a car. So that's going to cause even more problems. That once you
Right.
reserve your parking place with your room, it's not like it's a free-for-all. You actually, I think, get a room and a space. But if you don't get it, you got a car, you're going to have to find somewhere to park it. So I agree with you. We
They
need
can
to go
lease
ahead and
the
start
parking
looking.
deck.
Yeah, but I say
They
we
can
have
lease
we
the
have
parking
leases
deck.
available at the city of Greenville.
That's
Parking.
right. That might
Well,
help.
and who
And that's
knows? That
within
might be
walking
end up,
distance. That's
being
not
where they go.
very far. Well, so how will they handle the parking for the retail that was supposed to, I guess, still coming near the
I'm
boundary?
sure that
You'll
they'll
just
have
walk from
some
the deck.
spaces on the deck that you have to walk around because there's not any parking on the road.
No.
And I don't know if there's direct access. Again, that's not a question I can answer. But the good news is it's a big project. It's
Oh,
going to
yeah.
bring, I think, 545 or 550 residents more
That's
to downtown, which is going to be phenomenal. I saw Thomas this morning. I thanked him for shutting down Evans Street, and, and he said, "Yeah, I've heard that a few times, but
It's not supposed to be very long, though. just 10 days. Or
I like to
something.
give him a hard time. So, but I mean, we got a lot of good things going on. I know people get tired of it. Again, it goes back. Why are you always talking about uptown? And it has a lot to do with that vibrant inner city that we want. It has a lot to do with the tax base.
The return on investment is huge downtown.
And that's what allows the city to have the money to, one, keep from raising our taxes, which I'm sure we'll mention today at some point, but it keeps that. But it also gives the city the additional funds that it may need to reinvest in infrastructure and to get more activity going that will hopefully bleed over in other parts of the city.
Absolutely.
That's right. Well, all the people who are making reservations for the boundary don't already live here. So you're going to have an influx of new, kids coming into school, which will also help restaurants in the other parts of the city, not just in the uptown area. So I think it will branch out and certainly help us on the entire city.
Okay, Dennis, what else we got going on?
I was trying to think of what else I mentioned to Terry earlier. Something
got
about a
a
planning
list there.
session.
Well,
the bond. We know, and this is something I really wanted to come on and talk about today, is that, we talked about it. We went through this long, intense process that we were called upon to do.
Right.
Part of the bond committee. How many of it was us?
14.
14 of us and X amount of meetings, every 2 weeks meeting, coming up with this bond package for the city. And one meeting, in a couple hours, the city of Greenville the city council decided that they did not want what we gave them.
Right.
They didn't get all the background information we got, the return on investment information, none of that. They just decided that it's not what they wanted, and they went with pretty much an enhanced road package, I want to say, to kind of like mask a lot of things to make them fit in the roads.
Right.
I mean, pretty much it was a lot of council support. Each district got something. Councilwoman Blackburn got her greenways. Councilwoman Smith got some enhancements.
So I guess my
to-
question is,
to,
why did we
airport.
waste our time?
Well, I would like to know exactly what is the bond totally going to be then? Or will there be? I was not under the impression that we're putting greenways in this transportation street roads bond. So, which
It
to
is in
me,
Yeah, they enhanced it. I mean, they enhanced what the street package we gave them. They put that in there. They put some improvements to the airport gateway, and a few other things. So I mean,
I just hope some of those other things don't hurt the streets bond, because the streets was what they've, really pushed and wanted, and a lot of people.
You know what the total dollar amount is?
I can't remember off the top of my
Yeah, I
head.
can't remember. I heard a total, but I don't remember that either. I think what bothers me, I'll try to get this out the best I can, about not at least proposing the sports complex, which we know, based on records from Rocky Mount, could bring in a ton of funds for Greenville, is that they didn't let the citizens make the choice. I think they were concerned that if they put both out there, they might just not vote for anything. I feel like
I believe
they
that.
would
I
have-
believe that is a legitimate concern
I
that they
can
had.
understand that, but I think everybody is so concerned with our streets, that might have passed even if the sports
But the
complex
sports
didn't.
complex was never supported by the mayor or
No.
several of the city council members. It
Well,
never had
they
a shot.
also didn't even try to find out enough about it to see if it was important enough to proceed, whether or not. Maybe it will come up
But
in the future.
we
I
talked
hope
about,
so.
you can only do bonds every so often. We also recommend them to do them more often. But I mean, where's the vision at? I mean,
I
this
don't-
bond has no growth in it.
I don't
and the
recall
road-
hearing a bond plan.
No,
It's a maintenance
schedule.
bond.
and the bond that you're having right now is not going to take care of the roads that you think it's going to take
No,
care of.
it's not.
I mean, pretty much we're going to pave Arlington Boulevard and do some Dickinson Avenue, and that's pretty much
That's
it.
it.
So I mean, the bond. I hate to go against your
I know.
streets bond now, but since we're out there, I want something more vision, something that was going to help the city get some type of return on investment.
Right.
And this does absolutely nothing. There's no vision from the city council. They didn't listen to the bond commission. I mean, a lot of the people up there, Council
That
Mercer,
they appointed.
Councilmember Mercer included, always talks about it's important to listen to the citizens, and would use any other commission report, the neighborhood board or bicycle transportation, to back some of his other agenda items. But when it came to this is not what he wanted,
Right.
and the others didn't want, so they just threw it away. And I think it was a great waste of our time. I mean, a lot of time and effort was put in that, and we all wasted our time.
I can promise you this: I will definitely be given strong consideration in the future if I get asked again to volunteer my time, because that was a waste of time.
Absolutely.
I mean, I wasted many afternoons staying until 7 p.m. when I could have been home with my family. So thank you for wasting my time.
Well, I just don't understand how they think they can make a decision like that. With all the weeks we spent doing our homework, they haven't done any homework. They've done no homework.
Well, that's no different than the final meeting where
It's no different than anything
one of the
that they
council
decide
people
on.
got involved and knocked everything off track
Exactly.
because they didn't want something. It wasn't on their agenda, and therefore it messed it up for us. So
I agree with
anyway,
that.
I know we're going to be talking about the bond quite a bit more. Terry, where else you
And
want to
I
go this?
do want it to pass for what we do need to be done in the streets.
I'm against
Well,
the
let's talk
bond.
about.
So-
I'll tell you what about the streets
But,
is
you
there's-
know, I don't know if I'll like it the way that it is, and they may have hurt themselves by adding certain things in that people like me or whatever, you, don't want included in the streets bond.
well, because
so-
it's technically not streets.
It's not streets anymore.
There's a lot of maintenance in there, but I believe around 25% of that streets bond had to do with the Dickinson Avenue corridor. Wasn't that about
Yeah,
right?
and then
Yeah.
And now that's not been funded by the state.
yeah, so that's up in there.
So
The
that's
state-
gonna be
the
interesting
state
to
was
see.
supposed, the way that was supposed to happen is the state was supposed to pay for some enhancements, and we were going to come up with a mess to make them
Right.
nice. The state didn't come up with that portion.
When I
So
say they're going to put that on their bond, which we may not see until November 16th. So that's going to be.
but the whole idea was trying to do it all at the same time. I don't
Which we
understand.
really
And
needed
that's not to say
that.
it can't do. It's just what this means if that does come up. So if the legislature supports it, which there's some question of whether the legislature is even going to support putting this bond out there. But if the legislature supports it, you're seeing November 16, which means you're not going to see this until end of 16 or it could be early 17 before we actually see anything happen if it gets approved. So we're out minimum 2 years before Dickinson Avenue has any chance of getting better.
Absolutely.
Unless they have to do some of the work which they were trying to avoid, do work on Dickinson, and then if you get that bond passed by the legislature, you might be tearing up something we did to get other things to fit in. Is that not right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you also, we gotta understand too, we also got our Town Creek Covert plan to redo that.
That's right.
And built
Yeah.
into that too, so I don't know how that
Well,
affect
and
that.
I think that's probably going forward or continuing to plan to go forward. And there's a lot of work that's got to be involved. And I understand, and I've spoken to some of the city officials. What the state is also saying is, look, we don't need to be doing Dickinson Avenue while the 10th Street corridors is going on. You're talking about a disaster. I mean, everything will be shut down downtown. So,
true.
I understand there needs to be some level of scheduling, but I don't know. I know that there's frustration around this table because the three of us, as well as 11 other people, spend a lot of our time.
Right. Well, really
on
one
this.
thing
And so it's
too-
a little bit disheartening because I spoke with Calvin. He asked me to sit down and spoke with Rick Smiley. They wanted my opinions. I gave it to them, and I'm sure that maybe they considered it. But at the end of the day, they didn't consider anything.
Well,
They
when
just
I
said, "No, we don't want
spoke to
this."
him too, but it was like months ago, right afterwards, and Councilmember Smalley stated that he felt that since the committee supported that it was probably going to go through. So I don't know what happened between now and then. I think it was a lot of lobbying from their constituency. 'Cause let's be honest, a lot of their constituency was park heavy.
Right.
And I heard there was already plans in place to go ahead and start preparing a campaign against the initial bond that we had
Right.
put forth to them. So it was like. That's who put him in office. That's who paid for him to be there.
I guess what I was hoping for with the sports complex is that it would produce enough revenue that we could just about, if you look at the numbers, just about turn around and do what you needed for the parks
Doesn't
and for
matter
the
now.
greenways.
Exactly.
I know, and that's what I was hoping for, that would be
But
a way to
but
get
Terry,
that extra
you know
income.
what? This all goes back to
or
Dennis
revenue.
mentioned it. I mentioned it before. Vision.
Vision, no vision.
What is the vision? What is
No
the
vision.
economic vision of the city? What does the city need to invest in that we can get a return? But we're not looking at any of that. The parking deck. Sorry, that was a vision you guys had,
Right.
but it was fought against for
yeah.
years.
Oh, yeah.
And even after you approved it, it was a lot of people
Talked down
screaming,
upon. Yeah.
"Oh, we can't believe we spent this money." But look, now everyone's praising, "Oh, this wonderful
I was
parking that
telling
we got."
somebody about that the other day. You know, they praise the economic development. They praise the parking deck. They praise the Tar River Legacy Plan. These are all things they fought tooth and nail
That's
against.
right.
But now the vision is actually coming into reality, and everyone's starting to see it. Now they jump on the bandwagon with it. But this city can. Everybody thinks Greenville is a good city, but we can really be great if we get a set of leaders in there that really have a vision and really want to take us somewhere. Right now, we're not going anywhere.
Right.
I mean, this council was all about, really three things. They were about getting in there to reverse that neighborhood decision, they raised taxes, and how to keep them in office longer. That's been their plan so far.
Oh, but Dennis, no, they're not looking to do anything with the office stuff till 2017 at the earliest, is what they're saying.
Well, let me just say this. In the next week or two, we hope to have Kevin Mulligan from the city on. He can maybe enlighten us about the bond and the streets and exactly what direction he thinks the money will be used for, and an update on the town culvert and how
Well,
that's
you know what?
going.
And I think we need to get, and we haven't asked it yet, but is Andrew, I can't think of Andrew's last name, but was involved in the Tourism Bureau
Right.
to talk about, because he was the one very involved in the sports complex. He
was.
came and
We
spoke
could-
at a board meeting I was at for Committee of 100. And I think there was
spoke to us,
but here's
too.
what I heard, and I think I understand some of the reason they didn't want to try to push the
Right.
sports complex through. Is I'm around the table with a lot of businessmen. These
Sure.
guys know Greenville, and even they weren't sure about the sports complex. However, after Andrew got finished speaking,
Right.
they were like, "Wow,
I know.
we do need
It's
to be looking at
millions
that."
of dollars of revenue.
Yes.
Millions.
But again, it's,
But anyway.
It would
killed.
have been huge. I mean, you talk about game-changing projects. That would have been a huge game changer for
And
Greenville.
what Andrew said is Rocky Mountain, who's got one, would love for us to have it.
Oh, yeah.
Because they don't have facilities big enough to support all the requests they have.
Exactly.
And the cities could work together on sharing, hotel stays and sharing events, 45
Well,
minutes apart. but-
Andrew told us it was the biggest growing industry.
Yeah, but
the
unfortunately,
sports
we're going to
type
wait
thing.
till like 2020 before we do it, 2025, and all Wilson and everyone else is
Kinston's
going to have them, and it's
one,
not going to
exactly.
matter anymore.
Exactly. No
right.
vision.
But hey, we're not going to have term limits, so everyone now will still be in there then. So we don't worry about anything.
Let's-
Terry, let's talk about schools.
Let's wait real quick. Let's do an update on South Greenville Gym.
Oh yeah, so
Finally.
again another vote. They pretty much voted to go ahead and release the contract.
Right.
So South Greenville Gym is becoming a reality.
Right, which it needs. I rode
Yes.
by there this week.
Only took how long?
It's terrible.
We voted on it 3 years ago.
Right.
But it had been delayed several times before that.
Yeah, about 10 years. It's been about a 10-year
So,
process.
like I said, we'll see 2025. We'll see the sports complex.
Okay, what do you want to talk
We're going
about?
to take our.
School
I'll tell you
system.
what. It's probably a really good time though to maybe take our second
fine.
commercial break. That
Let's
way
do
we
that.
can finish the second segment. Because we want to talk about the school system and what some people are saying this horrible degrade we got, but there's so much more behind that.
There is a lot.
So let's take our second commercial break. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the show talking about schools.
Sounds good.
Welcome back to Greenville Grit. As always, we've been talking about things going in Greenville, keeping Greenville residents in touch. And now we're about to touch on this very hot school board grades. Everyone know that our school system was rated with a report card. The General Assembly changed it to pretty much just giving a single letter grade to the schools. And the average in Greenville is a D. It's a D. All
On
we have
paper.
was F's, D's, and C's. No A's and B's.
There was a few A's.
Not in
Oh,
Greenville.
no
The
A's.
B's.
No.
I'm sorry, B's. There was
No.
like 12,
There was
11 B's.
There might have been a few B's.
was like 11
I
B's.
don't think there were B's.
There were
I think
B's.
there might
There were
have been.
B's.
Well,
Yeah,
anyway.
you're right. There were.
It was like
There were
10
a
or
few.
11
Few.
B's.
Yeah, because I think Hope made B's.
And Chicago.
Winterville made a
Chicago,
B.
whatever.
Chicago. Yeah. Yeah. Winterville.
Doesn't matter. It's
Yeah.
horrible.
Well, I
But
mean,
there's a lot behind
There's,
that.
there's people say a lot behind it, and I think I'm probably on the opposite end of it. To me, the report card and grades state the reality, and I think that's what the General Assembly want to do. Now, there's some dynamics behind the reality. My mom's a school teacher. She teaches in a very poor school district, and so her school got a low grade too.
Right.
But what she says and I agree with is that the letter grade shows you what it really is. Now, are we going to put the resources and things that these schools need in to get these students where they need to be? Or not, if you're not going to do that also. But she said it is a dynamic. It is a lot for her to take a child that's an F student and to move him up to a D level. There's a lot of effort that goes into that, especially when he might not have had all the background and stuff like that.
What grade does she teach?
She teaches 6th grade.
Okay.
And that's the whole argument behind this. It's like the schools feel like you're not taking into account that. The teacher's putting all this effort and all that time into bringing these students up, so you're not putting enough weight on that growth. And that's what it does. This new grading system puts more weight on just actual, this is what the kids did on integrated testing, not looking at all the effort and the growth that the schools
Well,
did.
I think that's unfortunate, though. That is the way a snapshot. I mean, if you let's take a rural school, depending on the demographic mix of the students in that school, you could have a teacher that has students who may be in single-parent households, or may basically spend all day at home by themselves because both parents work, who don't have that parental guidance and parents at home who are pushing them. So they have no structure, they have no leadership, they go to school, they don't know, they don't care, they've never had that. And you're having teachers who are having to be a parent and at the same time with 30 kids in a classroom.
That's right.
And trying to bring, well, you already said, kids from F level up. And so that's not taken into consideration what the effort that some of these teachers, and it's basically you're telling the teachers you're failing. But yet some of them, and probably a very good many of them, are teachers who truly care, who are doing everything they can to help.
That's right, Michael. Look, you can't, it's not the teacher's total responsibility to get those kids where they need to be at the end of every year. It is a parental responsibility, too.
Yeah, but
and
we
that's
already know
not
that the household,
It's not
as we have
happening at
known
home.
it in the past, is gone.
I know.
So how do we do that?
Look, demographics are everything, because when you look at the schools that didn't make the grade, the demographics
That's
of
why I
that
think
school
you need to look at
made
the
up with a
numbers.
school like Chicago are completely different. And I also don't understand, integrated testing is one day, basically. You're looking at one day out of that year, and you're going to grade that school and all those teachers based on that one day. That's really not right, based on what all goes into that integrated testing. The integrated testing questions and the way they set up those tests are not even on the same level that the children are learning on for that year. And they're requiring kids to look at problems and decipher the questions on subjects they have no clue about, or they're worded in a different form of a language that a child like in the 3rd grade or 4th grade doesn't even understand yet. It's the level of their test don't meet the level of the grade, which is why the teachers always say we have to teach the test.
Make sure that we say your daughter
daughter's
is a
teacher.
third
She's
grade teacher. So
It's
you're
been a
saying this
tough
from the
year.
experience.
It's a tough year.
But you know what? I think that's the
I mean, I
problem.
don't know exactly what's on the test, but I'm just going by what I have lots of teachers who are clients and friends, and they say the same thing. The test doesn't match where the children are for that year. The other problem I have has nothing really to do with my daughter being a 3rd grade teacher, although, you do have thoughts about it. To me, 3rd grade is not the grade you need to be worrying about can a child read or not. They should be
first grade.
first grade. It should be 1st grade and 2nd grade certain levels of math, subtraction and addition and adding. In the 3rd grade, if you're trying to teach a child or introduce them to multiplication and they don't even know how to add and subtract, that's the problems that all the teachers are having.
And all this is right, and I think it's right, but I think the grade system is putting on the wrong people. I think we should keep the grade system, but don't blame the teachers for it. Blame the policymakers. I mean, there's
Right.
policy.
Yeah, but the policymakers are what. Look, let's go back to when you and I grew up. I mean, I don't remember. I was a child of the public school system. I was at GCA until the 5th grade, and from there went to Walcoats through Greenville Middle and EBA Cock and Rose, and had a wonderful experience. Rose, when I graduated, the number of kids who had scholarships set like an all-time record, and I mean, it was a phenomenal education. What has happened what have they done? The policymakers have changed something. And I don't know. I don't know enough
It is
about
the
it.
policymakers,
in
Michael.
20
You've got
years that
people
have
making the
destroyed the system.
decisions that aren't in the classroom, that are not teachers.
And that's the
They
problem.
don't have a clue.
The problem.
They're sitting up there making these decisions, June Atkinson and everybody else. I mean, they're not in touch with really what's happening in reality. in the
That's what
classroom.
my mother says. My mom said they're not able to be as flexible as they need to be.
No,
my mom
they're
said she had a
not.
parent come in and she was calling this parent, trying to meet with this parent to talk about her child failing, and then she didn't hear from the parent until the report card came out.
Exactly.
And then the parent was
Mad.
pretty much trying to blame her. My mama
Blame the teacher.
Exactly.
My mama wanted to tell her about herself and to let her
Well,
know.
knowing you, I cannot imagine how mean your mama is.
Exactly. My mom could tell her about herself, and she just wasn't able to do it. But I think that's what you need to focus on. I want to say this real quick. My daughter was able to read before she started kindergarten,
Right.
and I was very proud of that. But I didn't know how bad it was, the extreme side was, until I was putting money on her card to pay for lunch one day, and it's at the beginning of the school year, and a child was coming through for breakfast, and it didn't even know his last name.
Yeah.
And that like hit
sad.
me, like that's what the extremes are. So you're having parents like
Right.
mine that are preparing their kids, getting ready for school, and you have parents.
Yeah, but that's going to hurt your daughter in the long run
It's gonna
because
hold
when a
it.
teacher's having to spend time to teach a kid English or to teach a kid basic English or basic math,
The teachers don't even want to take time to meet with me on parent teacher conference because they want to meet with those
Yeah,
parents
that's
with kids
right.
that's failing.
Right.
And I want to.
but it's going to end up holding your daughter could get more education, but she can't because of that. And again, that goes back to the policymakers. So I think honestly, you thought we were on the other end. We're really not
yeah.
on the other end at all.
I would like to really have a show
Well,
with Ethan
hopefully we can get
Linker
Dr.
and
Linker in
let
here
him
and-
really explain what the grade system really means and what is his vision for how he sees it's going to get any better.
And this is not a Republican thing, guys.
This has
I mean,
nothing
this
to do
is
with
this
poli-
is
It
Democrats,
has to do with
Republicans,
politics,
every one of
but
them.
not with Republican
exactly.
or
This is good.
Democrat.
Well, y'all need to make that a 4-person show because I mean, y'all might throw him some softballs.
That's
That's gonna be a
right.
1 hour
he needs
show.
some hard balls.
All right, guys, we're wrapping this show up. Thank you for joining us tonight. Visit us again Friday night or Saturday morning. Thank you, Ribeye Steakhouse, the Overton Group, Kidd Construction Group, and Greenville Toyota. Until then, we will see you next week.